Hello, friends. Hello, humans. Thank you so much for listening to this. This is our very first episode of the Moto Archive podcast. And I'm just so excited to start this journey and share all these stories with you. Motorcycles, they mean so much to me, and they give me so many beautiful memories. And I've created so many relationships, and my goal is just to be able to share this with you and connect with more people through this beautiful thing that I love so much. This episode is about Peter of Peterbuilt Moto. Peter is a father. He is a husband, a motorcycle builder, an immigrant, a man with a passion for 80s and 90s motorcycles, and now I would consider him one of my friends. Really appreciate him so much for inviting me into his home and allowing me to tell his story. He was just an amazing person, very, very positive throughout all the hardships that he's endured throughout his life. And I just feel so honored to be able to share a story with you. So thank you so much for being along this journey with me, and welcome to the Motorcycle Archive podcast.
Yeah? I actually was born in the Philippines, and in like early 2000, that's when I came here. My dad petitioned us to move over here because my dad is got naturalized to be a U.S. citizen.
Oh, okay.
And he became a U.S. citizen, so he brought us over here, and so we can go to school here and have a better life.
I was just curious to know about your history, growing up and stuff. How when did you move here? How old were you? Were you
I think I was 9 years old back in
okay.
2001, way back when. I don't even remember, but I didn't speak a lick of English. I was I grew up kind of just I just had to teach myself. But yeah, I grew up in a family where you just got to be. We're more self-reliant. My dad was really strict. You know how Asian parents are. He owned his own company. When you own your own business, you do everything yourself. So that's what my dad was. He was hands-on. It was a construction company, so he had his own fleet of trucks. So on the weekends, or in the summertime when people, kids are usually having fun and going out on summer vacation, all that stuff, I was working with my dad in the garage. He'd make me do an oil change, and I hated it, because it was hard work. He'd made me rotate trucks at, those big Ford F-250s. He made me pick up those tires and rotate the trucks, do oil changes, simple stuff like that. Made me wash the trucks, But that's kind of how I became a little mechanically inclined. I started working with ratchets, pliers, little simple tools, and I grew up kind of just being a handy guy.
Yeah. That for sure played a role.
Yeah, it did. It inspired me. Yeah,
and
but
that kind of translates to what you were saying earlier about you work a job in Santa Barbara, and then you come here at 6, 7 o'clock, and you're back.
You're back to
time with your family, and you just work on.
You gear. A lot of people see it as like a chore. People say, "Oh man, he's working," and it looks tiring. But for me, when you see something that you're building, it gives me energy. It gives me it's like a gift for me. It's rewarding.
Totally.
I like it's kind of like you when you're filming, right? In the beginning, it's so abstract. There's so much work to put scenes, all these together. But then when you're at it and you have a vision in the end, that's what fuels you. Yeah. And that's me, right? In the beginning, you start out with something as simple as this, with the bare bones, a lot of hardware that's missing, but everybody else thinks it's like, oh, you're crazy. What are you doing? But in your head, you already see it. You already see it like you're writing it.
Right.
So I think that's what separates regular people from people who are builders, right? Yeah. You have a vision. Or like an artist, you have a vision. You see a blank canvas, but as an artist, you see the artwork already, Right?
For sure. I appreciate you saying that too, and even like referencing like me and my work too. I feel like at the end of the day, what you do is like a creative thing. Like you're making something out of like these things that are like old, that are like that have like
ancient, and a lot of people have given up on them. You know, people have said, "Oh, this is '80s bike. Oh man, I'm gonna go to the dealership and pay for an arm and a leg to buy one." But for me, I see beauty. I see, I mean, the 1980s and the 90s. That was the golden years of motorcycle. Back when we were carburetors, back when everything was mechanical. Nowadays it's software, computerized.
It's almost like you can't really work on it
no.
yourself. Like
if you open up a Ducati service manual, if you go to a Ducati and you open up a Ducati manual, and then just read through it, and you'll read it and you'll see how to change the tire, or how to check the tire, how to do an oil change, how to change the battery. Every single time there's a quote that says, go to your nearest service dealership. It doesn't even tell you instructions. It doesn't tell you anything. It just says, go to your nearest dealership to do everything.
Right.
Because nowadays they're not building bikes for you to work on. It's for you to ride. But then when it breaks down, they expect you to go to their dealership, to their garage, and pay them an arm and a leg to fix it. You won't see any modern manual nowadays, service manual nowadays that teaches you, how to do stuff. Back in the day, they made books like this, where it goes in detail how to change an air filter, shows you how to do everything yourself. Tells you what tools to use.
Yeah.
It tells you to even get like all these specific instruments for you to check the valves. Like that's insane.
Right.
Imagine finding this kind of handbook for a 2023, Ducati or a Harley. No, there's no way they're gonna give you all this information. It's like a trade secret nowadays. Doing your oil changes, doing your oil change is a trade secret nowadays. They don't even want you to do it, and it just it's becoming a lost art.
I feel like there's it's like romantic to me to think about like the idea of like working on your stuff, but like it's sad to know that like it is dying in a way, like not a lot of people are passing it down.
Well, it's good that we live in a social kind of networking era. You have YouTube videos, you have Google, right? There's still people out there that are sharing all this information. It's easy to share information, kind of like what I'm doing. All these dealerships, all these manufacturers, they're not sharing this information anymore.
For sure.
It's usually up to you to either, hey, would you rather pay a shop to do it, or would you pay the tools to do it yourself?
Yeah.
That's kind of how it is nowadays, and I'm surprised by a lot of the comments that I get online. Are asking me, it's like, holy crap, like that's so impressive. Like how you do that? It's like, hey, honestly, I bought this in Sears back when they were still open. It was like, I don't know,
that's vintage. Right?
$50, I guess. And I was able to dismantle every single bolt on my bike, almost 95% with this little thing. You need the courage to do it. Right. A motorcycle is, you depend your life on it. I get it. You got to do things right. And it's a trial and error kind of deal. If you write it out, you test it out, but it's as simple as getting a $40, $50 ratchet set and be able to work on your bike. But you really have to have the...
You kind of talked about your channel a little bit too. Like, what was the inspiration to make that?
Peterbilt, really? Honestly, again, I've been riding motorcycles since I was, I don't know, since 2000, since I was like 16. Again, and I've been mechanically inclined since, working with my dad and all that stuff, but I haven't really gotten to this detail since 6 months ago. I'm a spontaneous kind of guy to the point where I woke up one day and I was like, oh, I want to share, because I've been working on projects left and right, but I felt like it was just secluded in my garage.
Right.
And nobody else was seeing it. People only see it if I go to a bike meet or I meet somebody I ride, but it seems like it wasn't the stuff that I wasn't getting appreciated by that much. So that's when I decided to share it. my wife, she has a TikTok. You know, she has like 50,000 followers too. So she does her own video, and she encouraged me to. It's like, hey, why don't you make videos and you know, do something unique. And that's when I decided, I was like, okay, well, I used to film videos all the time, so I kind of have you know, the editing eye. You know, I kind of look at what scenes to look at, what's good, and you know, I like explaining things to do. I mean, I'm in construction and an engineer, so I explain how to do things, how to build things at work too. So I kind of just put that two together, and Peterbilt came out of it. You know, I just went to the Facebook Marketplace, and I found this first bike for this is a Honda Sabre 750.
Honda Sabre, right? What is a Honda Sabre Harley Davidson though, right?
Yeah. Well, the tank is aftermarket, right? So I actually got scammed because of this, because you see this?
Yeah.
This is a fiberglass tank. This is a fiberglass tank. I bought it for $100, and I was like, oh man, this is a nice cafe racer shape, but this tank is actually damaged. You can't really see, but in the inside, the fiberglass is falling apart. So when I put fuel in it, it started leaking. So that's what kind of shut down this project. But anyway, this is a Honda Sabre. This was my first project ever since the whole Peterbilt started. You know, I was going for a cafe racer look, and I ended up chopping every single component on it and decided to do a cafe racer shape. Bought this for $250 off a guy on Marketplace, and I started working on it, and then all of a sudden this came along. I was just browsing Facebook Marketplace, and I found a better deal, and I was like, oh man, so I started buying this, and then I found that deal too for $250, and it kind of just added up, you know, because I would get bored of one project. That's kind of, I guess, my weakness is, you know, trying to finish something you started, and I think that's what a lot of people struggle through. So you buy a bike, you start a project, and then you get 50% into it, and then you kind of just drop.
I can totally relate.
Yeah, right.
With the XS, and you did that XS too, or that?
Yeah, this one took a long time. This was my first project bike back in college. I built this at a shed, a small, I don't know, 10-foot wide by 5-foot wide shed at in my fraternity house. Yeah, it started out as a regular bike, and then I turned it into a hardtail. It was built 100%, but I took it apart just because, you know, now that I have the garage to build it, I have a better welder. I want to redo a lot of the things here so that it's safer to ride. But you know, it's a hardtail, so it's a little bit more rough, a rough ride. But that's kind of on the side for now. These are like my main projects I'm trying to finish. So I'm just trying to focus more of my energy like towards this and finishing it. So.
And it's crazy to like see like, oh, these things can still run. Like,
yeah.
You're maybe not as fast as like the modern bike. But
no.
Do you have to be, you know, like, is that important?
You know, at the end of the day, most people ride to just ride, not to go 120 miles an hour. I mean, there's bikes out there that go 200 miles an hour, but most people are using more just to go up to 90 miles an hour. But this is more for style. You know, that's all cafe racer is all about. It's style. It's to make a statement on making something out of nothing. You know, once in a while I get comments online saying like, oh, cafe racer, like, come on, dude, like why would you ruin such a perfect bike and, you know, taking out all the stock parts? But it's been living in this world for 40 years now, the way it is, and it's gotten neglected already. Yeah. So here I am. I feel like my mission statement is I'm giving it a second chance so that another person out there is going to look at it differently. My job is, you know, it pays well, but this is like my side hustle, the way I see it, and
slash passion.
And passion, exactly, too. So I want to do something that's sustainable, that'll help me, you know, feed my family, and at the same time, hopefully, if it becomes successful, I can turn this into a full-time deal. I mean, my end goal is hopefully I could buy a whole new garage just for the shop and make content all day and make money online and selling bikes too. So
yeah, man, that's like
that's the American dream for me. That's my American dream right there. You know.
Yeah, man,
but
that's so cool. And I feel like, dude, the internet, there's always gonna be haters. No matter what you do, you could be working on like restoring them
something.
to be a period like specific, and somebody's gonna be pissed.
Yeah.
So
that's what I noticed too, is that, and that's what I try to tell myself all the time, is don't be so disappointed. And when people show you hate online, because there's a 7.5 billion people in this world that you're not going to satisfy.
Yeah.
You know, maybe half of them, if you satisfy maybe an eighth of them or 16th, I'm happy. If 75%, good. But sometimes I notice that the more controversial my content is, the more engagement I get.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, see?
I don't know if you saw my last video.
Which one was it?
Where so my last video was I took this engine apart.
Was it when you're like leveling out the
Yeah, when I was leveling up. So that's what they used to do back in the day. You know, they used to use sandpaper and they block it. There's different ways. There's a million ways to do something, right? And I made this jig, you know, and people were hating so much, but some people were like, dude, it's fine. So I made this sanding block jig. Sure you don't want a beer?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay, let me open it up real quick. So like, when you open up or rebuild an engine, you take it apart. There's different things that you got to do when you rebuild an engine, but most people take it to a shop, right? They have specific machines and that can get to the tolerances that you need to get it back to spec. Because over time, an engine basically, you know, it gets warped. After 50 years of riding, it gets warped. It's out of spec. So that, you know, you take it to a shop to resurface it, to get it back to the spec. I basically wanted to show a different way of doing it. You know, I didn't want to just make a content of me going to a shop and like, hey, look at me, look, here's $1,000 to resurface my engine. Here you go. But I wanted to show a different way of doing it, and kind of just Googled what people have done, and they've made like a jig like this where they sanded their engine block themselves, and it's basically
like instead of using a machine to do it,
you're doing it by hand, right?
And that's kind of like the purpose of your channel too. Is like you showing people like you can just do this in your home garage. Like you don't need.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. It's just a basic garage. I don't have the expensive machines out here, but you know, it's really, you know, I think my philosophy is, again, there's a million ways to do something, but you know, if you find a process or a method to get the quality that you need, you know, to get to the specs that the manual requires, then that it doesn't matter what your means and method is. It just, as long as you can get to the right tolerance. So I made this and I started sanding it. I was showing people like, yeah, this is how you do it. And I had a feeler gauge too, you know, that was measuring the flatness to, you know, down to, you know, 2/1000ths of an inch, you know, 0.06 millimeter. I got it back per spec. They said that, you know, per spec that you're supposed to get it back down to 0.002 inch or flatness. And my methods was kind of a little controversial. So I would go ahead and just use a level to check and make sure and see if the feeler gauge fits inside based off of the requirements that it was asking for. You know, and I felt like I did everything correct. And I tested it several times. And then people were just saying, oh, that's not the right way to do it. You know, just, I don't know why you're trying to save money, thousands, you know. It's like, I get it. I can pay hundreds of dollars to have a shop do it. But, or I could also show you how to do it with basic tools, right? And then people started questioning everything, you know. They're saying, oh, why are you using this plastic level? I'm like, this is an $80 level. This is made in Germany. You know, this is an $80. This is the most expensive level you can get. It's aluminum. It's flat. And they were just questioning about the flatness of my level and how I was checking it. And it was just on and on. And in the beginning, I was like kind of getting fired up and I was getting engaged too. But then I realized, I was like, you know what? There's no point of arguing, and they're not wrong. I get the critics. They're not wrong. I agree with them. I agree that the safest way to do it is take it to a machine shop and grind it down to the tolerance that you need. But you know what? There's different ways to do something, right? You know, I could go to a shop and get your car to do an oil change, and they can have a $10,000 machine to do it and all that stuff, and have all these automotive specialists to change your oil. But can you change your oil in your garage with the socket set? Yeah, you probably could do it. So why not do it yourself, right? This is kind of more of a little bit more technical, and it's high risk, and I get it. Because if you fuck this up, if you mess this up, if you mess this up, you would have to buy a new engine. You would have to buy a new block, right? If you sand too low or if you sand uneven, you're gonna compromise your engine. I get it. That it's a high risk, but again, your capability it just depends on the risk that you take. If you're comfortable like me of taking an engine apart and sanding it down and then running it, then yeah, good for you. If you're not comfortable at all, then go ahead, go spend the money that you need to go to a shop, and there's nothing bad with that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the right way of doing it. But I just want to show the average Joe that, hey, piece of plywood, 2,000 grit, 200 grit sandpaper, level. You there you go. You can get, yeah. I spent like what, $10 in materials, right? And I don't want to give the people the wrong information, saying like, hey, you should do it this way, and I get it. This, motorcycle, your life depends on it, right? I actually had a fraternity brother that he lost his life. I saw him as my little brother.
He was like your little bro in the fraternity?
Yeah. Actually, let me get his photo real quick. I want to get it in there. Touchy subject, but I want to share it.
I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah. So, I love motorcycles. I've been riding them for as long as I can remember. And I've inspired people to ride too. I built this in my fraternity house, and some of my bros, they saw me build it, and they decided to get motorcycle. And this was one of my little bro who also got inspired to ride because of he saw me riding, and I was like, yeah, go ahead, man, let's go buy your first bike. And ever since then, he even inspired his girlfriend to ride motorcycle. And then he's young. He was his early 20s, and I graduated. I decided to go work, and he actually, we started this working in the same company too. So he was kind of like me. I was an engineer. He was an engineer, and we were riding motorcycles on the weekends. But the difference between me and him was he was just riding a lot. He loved riding. He even rode to work too. For me, I just used the car, and I kind of had my reservations with motorcycles, and
he loved it too.
He loved it.
Yeah.
One day he was driving home from work at a stop sign, and his light turned green. He went ahead and and there was a mom and her daughter wasn't paying attention, and they ran the red light on the opposite traffic, and it bumped him.
Yeah.
He was unconscious. He got sent to the hospital, and I was working during the day too when I got the call, and he was basically he pronounced him as, he was a vegetable basically at that point. And they gave his family an option to, it's like, hey, he's gonna be like this for the rest of his life. Do you want to pull the plug or not? And yeah, they pulled the plug on him back in 2018.
I appreciate you sharing that story.
No.
That's very personal too. What was his name?
Callan.
Callan?
Callan. He looks like me too sometimes, you know.
Yeah, bro.
A lot of people think we're brothers.
Like by blood as well.
Yeah, but we met in college. We were in the same fraternity, and he lost his life doing something he loved. After that, I didn't ride for probably 2-3 years. You know, I just felt guilty because, you know, I was like, oh, what if he'd still be here right now if I didn't inspire him or if I didn't tell him to ride. But, you know, things happen the way it is. You know, I don't really believe in God or I don't believe in anything. I just know that that's the way the universe works and things just happen for a random reason. There's no reason to it. But it was his time and it was his time. And, you know, when I built the motorcycle, it comes, there's a big responsibility over my shoulder when I work a motorcycle. Because I always think about that, you know, when something bad happens because of the stuff that you're doing, and I would never forget myself. And, you know, I would probably feel the same way when he died. But I never forget myself inspiring him to ride. And, you know, there's a great deal of respect, you know, when I work on motorcycles.
I think that it's cool, like you continue that passion as well.
Yeah, I mean,
in a way.
I could go in the other way and just stop all this motorcycle bullshit and stop riding but that's the coward's way. I think that's the coward's way of just giving up and turning back on something that you love. You know, it's hard sometimes, you know, when I'm riding, I always think about it all the time too. When I fixed my first motorcycle from another follower, I think about that too. Like when the guy told me it was his first time riding, I was like, oh my God, dude, are you serious? You know, but it was a big, I felt like it was a big responsibility on my part to make sure that I built this motorcycle correctly. He's a first time rider, so I got to make sure that I'm building it properly. You know, when I do these tutorials, yeah, I think about safety all the time. I think about what's the safest way to do it, you know, making sure I'm not giving people the wrong information. And if I do, I'm sorry, I would probably delete that video right away. But that's one of the things I think about too, is that, you know, there's a lot of young drivers out there, young people that want to build bikes. Yeah, it's a big responsibility, you know, and that's kind of the one thing that's holding me back from just showing whatever I want to show, because you know, you don't want to just give people the wrong information and end up finding out something bad happened to them. But yeah, that was I don't mean to turn into a dark thing, you know.
It's I don't think it's necessarily dark or anything. It's just like you're sharing somebody that's meaningful to your life, which is freaking I appreciate it, bro. Like, and I'm sure he sounds like a really cool dude, man.
Yeah, he was, and he was full of life. Yeah. You know, just it was a heartbreak that he died because of something that we love doing. And it's waking up early in the morning or even starting the bike is it's hard to swallow. You know, it's hard to ride sometimes because, you know, I have a daughter now. I have my family, and you know, you think about that shit, you know. It's like you know, do you want to fucking fulfill your day and get a high from riding, or even though you know that it might be your last? Like I don't know, I hate seeing it that way, but some people tell me all the time, it's like, hey, that's how it is. But I feel like, again, I don't believe in destiny or any God or anything like that. I think it's just when it's your time to go, it's your time to go. For sure. I think I don't want to live my life not fulfilling what I love doing, though. You know, I've always thought about doing this for the longest time, it's always, I've been always scratching at it, and I was like, I really want to do it, and I'm finally doing it. You know,
you're making it happen.
Yeah, it's a risk. So that's part of the risk doing this. It's a big responsibility. It's not just making content for me. It's not, you know, it's a big responsibility showing people how to build bikes. I don't really ride as much anymore. I maybe I ride once every 2 weeks, once a month, maybe sometimes, just because I have my daughter now. And for me, I think it doesn't matter how safe you ride. You can be the safest driver in the world, but again, my Callan died. You know, it wasn't his fault. Somebody ran the light, and it doesn't matter how safe you ride. It's gonna happen, right? So it's stuff like that. It's kind of like out of your control. And what are you gonna do? Are you gonna crawl in the corner and cry, or no? You're gonna pick up a wrench and build a bike. You know?
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I don't want to turn this into something bad. You know, and you want to turn it into a positive. And you know, every time I build, I think about this guy. You know,
Yeah, man, I see that.
He's always in my head, and he's always there. You know, I think he died with a smile on his face. He was riding, and you know, every time you ride a motorcycle, it's you're always like on a high. You know, you're always at a high point. But
and it's a beautiful thing to see, like this picture, and then the bike that you built in college, right behind it.
He saw that. He saw me build that.
Yeah.
You know, he was a freshman, and I was building that, and that's what inspired him to buy a motorcycle. So my motto is to, you know, keep that past alive. Keep that old era, that golden year alive. So that's my thing is, you know, fix your old bike and don't buy new bikes. Keep it running.
Mm-hmm.
Because just because the carburetor isn't running, just because there's something minor broken, it doesn't mean you have to upgrade to a new bike. Right? Mm-hmm. So that's my motto, and then that's what I like about upgrading the older bikes.
Yeah.
Is to keep that era alive.
Right.
You know, back when everything was mechanical, you know, when something breaks down, you could fix it with a wrench and a screwdriver. Right. Now it's like software.
Yeah, you gotta get on the computer, you gotta plug it in.
Yeah, and that motto too also means to be more self-reliant. You know, it's kind of like nowadays how, you know, when your iPhone is broken, where do you go? You go to the Apple Store to fix it. Why? I don't know how to fix my iPhone. Yeah. But does the iPhone need to be like a motorcycle? No. Motorcycle is completely different. It's mechanical. You should have the right to fix it. Yeah, right? You should be able to look at a motorcycle and diagnose it and say, oh, hey, it's running too lean. That's why the motorcycle is not running right. How do I fix it? Okay, well, I just need to adjust the idle needle and the fuel. I need to change the jets because I installed new pod filters, you know. Yeah, but like to some people, it's like, oh my God, it's like calculus, you know. Yeah, people are like trip out and they're like, no, I need a new bike. I'm like, no, it's as simple as looking what you have and looking at it in a technical spec and really have a good understanding of what you're working with. You're riding it. You should have a good understanding of how it works.
Yeah, dude.
So when you're out in the desert and it breaks down, you're not going to be stuck for 6 hours. You should be able to fix it.
Well, that's the thing about, I feel like, you know, fuel injection is really awesome in that, like, you could go to different elevations and stuff and, like, the bike will run. Yeah. But, like, once it goes out, there's no way of diagnosing it. Like if you get stranded in the desert, you can't do anything. You're done. Get towed down.
You're done.
But if you have a carburetor, you're like, oh, like, I could open it up.
You just need a screwdriver.
Yeah.
So that's my motto is, you know, to the average Joe, you know, you don't need fancy tools. You don't need fancy machines or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Again, I bought a $50, you know, 120-piece socket set, and I was able to disassemble my motorcycle and fix it. Yeah. And that's the message that I'm trying to get. You know, I get it. I can make content of me walking up to a machine shop and saying, hey, here's an arm and a leg and fix my bike. Okay, that's no fun. Yeah. No. Or let me make a sand block, you know, out of nothing, out of a plywood and sandpaper, and show you how to do it and get it back per spec. Is it risky? Yeah, it's scary. Yeah. What's the risk? You're gonna ruin your engine. Yeah. Yeah. But here's how to do it right.
And did you also like painted the block yourself? And
everything? Everything? I primed it, painted it. I took it apart. You know, a lot of these things you could take it to a shop and have them do it, but
you do it all here.
look at my garage. It's I don't know. It's 30 by 30. It's I don't know. It's 10 foot tall. I have a toolbox right there with basic tools. I don't have any fancy stuff, but look at it. Look how many bikes I've been able to build.
Yeah.
So, just being more self-reliant, I think goes a long way, and just knowing how to do things.
Using what you
and I'm a builder. I kind of see the world differently than what most people see. A lot of people see when they see a motorcycle, they shut down, and it's a big task, right? But it's really not that. It's really not that complicated.
Would you say you kind of see it more in like a technical way, like you see things?
So
or
the way I see the
creation?
world, as an engineer, when I'm driving the freeway, right? A lot of people driving the freeway, they pass through a bridge, it's like nothing, right?
Yeah.
For me, when I'm driving a freeway, I see the bridge and it's like I see about the abutments, the columns, the rebar, how it's installed, all the footing underneath. How am I able to drive over that bridge? Well, it's because of this, this 50 by 50 footing underneath here with pile caps and all that stuff. And I see the world inside and out,
Right.
And what I'm trying to say is you don't need to be an engineer to do this stuff, but you need to be able to look at the world inside out.
Mm-hmm. Like
People always say, "Oh, look outside the box, think outside the box." Well, how's the box made? Well, how's the box built? What's holding up the box? You got to look at the world that way too.
So like not just what's on the surface, it's
like
what's inside. Like
when something's wrong with your bike, it's not running right. You should be able to look at your bike and diagnose it and see the root cause of it. And it's really not that complicated for 80s bike.
Yeah.
You should be able to diagnose it and go to a shop and ensure that you're not getting jerked around or getting ripped off. You're saying, "Oh, you need to spend $5,000." Like, no, I just need an air filter.
Yeah.
Like,
So
just yeah.
And
You may not have the
aware,
tools that to fix the bike. I get it. Not everybody has tools, but you should have at least a common knowledge on what's going on with your bike, and that's what I want to show people.
Yeah.
And that's my whole content. You should be able to diagnose and kind of fix your bike.
I guess, I'm actually just curious to know, because we kind of you touched about it a little bit, growing up in the Philippines. You came here when you were 9 years old. What was like your earliest memory of like motorcycles, and like what got you into it? Did you have like a family member, or was it kind of like what made you want to even mess with motorcycles to begin with? Or even ride them,
back before I got a driver's license.
Yeah.
Back when I was like 14 years old. My dad ended up getting like a dirt bike, and that's how I got into like a two-wheel vehicle. I never thought about building or fixing it because I wasn't mechanically inclined back then, but it's really just the nature of how I was brought up. All the kids were playing out and going to Boys and Girls Club or whatever or on summertime, and I was wrenching away, helping my dad and slaving away, and I hated my life back then, but I look back at it now and that's what inspired me. That's how I was able to take more risk. People hold a wrench, it's like that's you don't know what you're doing. Oh my God, you can mess it up. Yeah, I get it. There's a lot of risk in doing a lot of things. But I think back when I was in middle school, that's really what inspired me to be more mechanically inclined.
Can you talk a little bit about just riding itself, aside from wrenching on bikes and stuff, I don't know, what part of riding motorcycles is romantic to you, or what do you like about it?
So if I'm riding the Tesla, for example, right? I'm riding. My incentive, my brain is just to get from point A to point B. Right? That's my whole intent. How do I get from point A to point B? Okay. All right, turn left right here, exit. Sure, whatever. Oh, I'm there. All right. All right, and then I go back home, go to sleep. I don't remember the next day, and go to the next day. Riding is more of, for me, my definition of riding is it's not just getting from point A to point B. Is what's the obstacle? What's the experience of what's the high I'm gonna get to getting from point A to point B?
Yeah.
You know, and it's just as simple as going to a grocery store or going to Ventura or going to LA. It's an adventure. You know, it's an adventure. You go out and you almost fucking died, but at the same time you're like, holy shit, you know, it's the wind, it's the loud sound of the exhaust, you know, like pretty much, you know, you're almost deaf because your throttle full open and you just feel the road in front of you, you know, and it's also the risk, you know, it's also risk of like, oh man, I'm in a 2-wheel road. I can die anytime, whenever. But that's the rewarding part of it. I think that's what most people crave too. Yeah. You know, you go on a Sunday or Saturday after working 40 hours a week, and you finally go on your motorcycle and you ride, and you cold start that engine, and you hear that bah, 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 and your heart starts racing, and you're like, holy crap, I want to get on this thing.
Like, I feel alive.
Yeah, I feel alive for once in 40-hour work week, and then that's the most rewarding part of it. Yeah. You know, I think that's why most people ride. They don't ride to, you know, from the grocery with an electric car just to like, oh my God, this is amazing. No, they ride a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Because you feel the vibration, you feel the road, you feel the bump, you feel those, like, you know, like all near death experience. You know, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
unfortunately, like that's not a fun feeling, but I get what you're saying.
It's that raw feeling.
Yeah.
You know. You can't get that anywhere. You can't get that from watching a movie. You know, you can't get that from working. That's the only time you get that rush. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like a drug, basically.
Yeah.
So that's why I ride. You know, but it's you got to respect it. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't be a clown in the road and like cutting lanes, and then you know, that's when bad stuff happens. You know.
Yeah, you gotta always exercise caution.
Yeah, you gotta be, you know, safe as you can be.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Dude, that's a great answer. Because I agree with you. Like, there's not much.
There's not much in the world out here.
There's not much that kind of like that give you that experience of like being like you said. Experience is a good word because it's like you're out there in the elements. You feel all the temperature. You feel
changes, dirt. You feel flies going up you, and then, you know, you smell. You smell the exhaust. You know, people cut you off. You're like, fuck you, you know. But it's, you know, what's the next thing that can make you feel that way? Skydiving. I'm like, you know, that's really it, right? You're like, you know. But the motorcycle it's like a controlled environment that you can do once in a while.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally.
But that's why I ride.
Yeah.
It's the thrill, and you know, it's another thrill when you're riding something that you built. Mm. It's fucking scary. First of all, I'm telling you right now, it's the scariest thing in the world. You're like, wait, did I torque that bull right? Like, and you always think in the back of your head, it's like, man, I can break down anytime now, you know. Yeah. But like when you get home, you're like, damn, I'm a mechanic. You know, you know, it's pretty rewarding, and that's part of the risk when you build your own bike, right? Yeah. When you do your first oil change, you're like, damn, did I put enough oil? Did I tighten that properly? Like, did I do it right? It's like all this stuff runs in your head, but you're just like, ah. And that's the most rewarding part. And it's just, that's the joy of it. You know, there's not much in this life, you know, this era right now that we live in, that there's not much that can get your heart pounding like that.
Right. And I think that's cool that you mentioned that too, because it's like, I feel like it's important that we kind of like don't like let that escape us, because like, you know, we spend so much time on our phones. Like,
we're in the cubicle for 40 hours.
Yeah, like, you know, for your business too, like, you have to show people like what you do. So you use your phone, use social media, but it's also important to get outside and like.
You're always in the safe zone, and then now you get out of your comfort zone. You're like, oh crap, you know. So.
Are there any like, I guess, projects? I know you have a few projects going on right now, but like in the future, like, what's like a goal of yours, or with like Peterbuilt Moto? Like, what's like where do you see it going in the future?
My end goal really is to be able to quit. Is to be able to quit my corporate job and be able to rely on this.
Yeah.
Because that job right now, I call it a job because it's a job. Yeah. I call it a job because that's what my brain is telling me. I'm not having fun. It's just work for me, and it's, I'm there from 6:30 to 7, and it's grueling. When I go to the garage and I take a wrench and I weld, it's not a job for me. It's like it's rejuvenation. It's basically like I'm in a trance when I'm working. I'm working till like 2:00. Some one time I found myself working till 2:00 in the morning, and I gotta wake up at 5:30 in the morning to go to work, and on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
That's how much I got carried away, because that's how much I love it. I don't know how long I'll feel that way, but I love it right now at the moment. This is what I love, and this is what I keep doing. So that's my end goal, is to be able to open a shop, make content, share ideas, and also work on like customer bikes, and build work that people will ride and actually enjoy. I think that's the most rewarding part. That's my end goal, is hopefully one day I can quit my corporate job and do this full time.
I think that
it's kind of far away right now, because the money I'm spending and I'm investing in this isn't equal to the amount I'm getting back yet, just because I haven't materialized any of my projects yet. I worked on one customer job, and I got a couple $100s there, but it's not self-sufficient yet to the point where I was like, oh, I'm gonna quit my corporate job and I'm gonna do this full time. It's still in that gray zone. It's kind of scary, at the moment, where it's like, should I take the leap of faith and just do this full time? You don't know. So my job right now is like just a safe spot.
Yeah,
that's how I see it.
That's good. I think that's good too, because that's one thing you don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
Is like, where's the money coming in?
Yeah, and
you can kind of build this up. But I have like, just like the short time meeting you, I feel like you have a good idea, and like, I don't know, I feel like you're going on that path right now already.
Slowly but surely.
For sure,
if anything comes up, I think the engagement that I'm getting is really profound, and I'm impressed by how much people are responding to my content, and good or bad, I always look at every comment in a positive way. I appreciate everybody's comment. I don't care if it's negative. Even when somebody tells me like, you're doing it wrong, you should quit now, stop doing what you're doing, I don't care. Like, that gives me motivation to like say, okay, I'm actually probably doing it wrong, and let me do it the right way. Because half the stuff that people are saying is constructive criticism, and they tell me, hey, you should do it this way, you should do it that way. I was like, okay. And I'm not butthurt, and I don't say like, oh no, like, fuck you, I'm not gonna do it that way, you don't know what you're talking about. I started it 6 months ago. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I didn't go to school for this. And all these people who have done this in their entire life are telling me it's wrong. Like, it's probably wrong. But there's always room for improvement. But should I stop what I'm doing just because I'm doing it? No, I should improve it. I should improve my process, my means and methods. That's how I see it.
You're looking at it positively.
Yeah. Even
the negative ones.
When somebody tells you like, hey, you're using the wrong camera, you're not gonna be ever successful with that camera. Like, okay, well, I'm kind of just a beginner right now, but thank you for the advice. I'll go ahead and upgrade one day, but I'll work with what I have. That's kind of what I have right now. It's like, I don't have expansion machine. Half my stuff is all Harbor Freight tools. They're made in China. They'll only last a couple of years, but they get the work done. So that's
Harbor Freight.
Yeah.
Sponsor this.
Please
man.
sponsor me, because I'll be happy to sponsor. See what you can do with Harbor Freight tools. But I take every comment as in a positive way. The fact that they're commenting, I appreciate that. It's like, oh, you're watching my video and you're taking the time to say something about it. That's what I appreciate.
Cool, man.
What
is there anything that inspires you in terms of like your builds and stuff like that? Is there any other builders out there that you look up to, possibly, or?
Back when I was, the 2005 or 2008 era, when, you saw Monster Garage in Discovery Channel, people building stuff, or motorcycle build. I always wondered if I could live a life like that. People just doing what they love, and people making money out of their passion is what I questioned in life. And I was like, can I ever achieve that? And I think it's capable. It's possible for anybody. You know, if they can do it, you can definitely do it. It takes discipline, and it takes, you know, you just got to manage your time. A lot of managing time. I mean, I'm living a double life right now. I'm a civil engineer during the day, and then I'm a mechanic by nighttime, and I have a family that I'm trying to raise too. So it takes a lot. But you know, I mean, I look at other YouTubers, and I don't have a specific anybody. I kind of just go out, and I look at everybody's content, and I kind of wish I kind of see what I need to do to get up to that level.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have anybody specific, but you know, I find my content kind of just like a unique thing. I don't see other people doing what I'm doing. You know, like showing people how to do stuff on TikTok. I'm sure there's a lot of TikTokers out there, but you know, that's one of the things that in order to stand out, you got to do something unique that other people haven't done yet. And nowadays, that's hard to do. You know, because everybody's done everything.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm honestly surprised with how much engagement I've been getting, and I'm honestly surprised by how this thing kind of blew up. You know, I started with a brand new TikTok and Instagram with barely any followers, and now I'm at 13K on Instagram and then 20K on TikTok, and I was like, and I'm getting all this support and messages on the side, and then getting offers to do side jobs, and I was like, holy crap, like this is actually real. Like this is actually something that I can materialize. And when I did my first, you know, project bike, that guy, you know, who's never driven a bike before, and I did his motorcycle, and that was the scariest thing I've ever done. You know, for a guy to tell me like, hey, this is my first bike. Yeah, and you're like, all right. It's just like, takes off the bike. Yeah, and then my you know, I have a brother that died a long time ago. It's a big responsibility, and it takes a lot out of you. So I actually like did more on his bike than what I charged him. I told him like, hey, I did all this stuff because your bike's kind of like a piece of shit. Like, there's a lot I need to do, but I didn't charge you because he's like his early 20s. He's, you know, barely working, and my intent was just for him to enjoy his bike, you know. And then when he got his bike, he was super happy. It was like that, and that job that I did was probably worth like $1,000, but I only charged him like maybe $300 because I told him, I was like, hey, I did this, I did that, but I know you're on a budget, but you're my first customer. I'll do it for free, you know. And I give him a 6-month warranty too. So if anything breaks down, I'll fix it, no, for free. You know, because I know like if something happens, like I want to be accountable for it. You know, just being accountable and just making sure, letting him know, give him that reassurance that I don't want to give him a bad experience with riding a motorcycle. Because the last thing, if you were trying to get into a motorcycle and you had a bad experience, would you ride again? No. You'd probably be like, you're probably like, no, fuck it.
No, I probably would though.
Yeah.
It's me though.
Yeah. So for him, I was like, I don't want to give him that experience. I want to give him a good experience and just letting you know, it's like, hey, if something breaks down, I'm just letting you know, I just started. I'll fix it for free. So, and I want to do that for everybody too. You know, for me, money's second, but you know, to enjoy your motorcycle and that's priceless. You know, I don't want to ruin somebody's experience and say, oh, something broke down, he built it wrong, and now he's charging me an arm and a leg. You know, that's the last thing I want to be. I don't want to be a dealership. You know, so I felt like I was super fair.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's awesome. I think people would probably appreciate that too.
Can I grab another?
What's that? Oh, yeah, sorry. yeah, my bad.
Good. You can get another one too if you want.
Can I try one of these IPAs?
Yeah, go ahead. That's yours.
Yeah, this looks really good.
I'm not sure if you're into IPAs.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I'm cool with everything, but I love IPA. Just like those fraternity days.
But that's the whole philosophy of Peterbilt is, you know, it's not to make money or anything like that or to get clout or anything. It's just to show people to be more self-reliant and to show people like, hey, you have a socket set, you have a wrench, you can do a lot of these things by yourself. You know, I don't want you going to the dealership and spending $500 for an oil change. Like, you can do that yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's cool that you do that, because me as like a consumer, like obviously like I ride, I do like little maintenance stuff here and there, but to see like somebody like you know, resurfacing like your engine block and like showing me like, oh, I could do that with the tools that you have, like it's like cool, man. Like now I feel way more confident to like work on that XS650 that I have back at home, you know, like so I think that you feel like a void in like the content space, even though there's like so much stuff out there. I feel like there's not a lot of stuff like what you're doing.
There is. I mean, you know, not a lot of people are working on old bikes nowadays. It's more of just, you know, flashy and, you know, new modern stuff. But I want to bring back the old 80s bike, you know. I want to bring back I want to not make it a lost art. You know, sinking a carburetor, I can't believe how many comments I got on how people are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you did that." I'm like, "No, I just spent like literally $30 on Amazon for this sinking carburetor.
Yeah.
All you got to do is hook this up to your carburetor and make sure all the needles are pointing correctly, and you're just you know, adjusting a needle." But a lot of people's bikes are out of spec because they don't know how to sync the carbs. You know, and it's simple as that. And they go to a shop and they spend $100 on syncing carbs. Like, no, why not just do it yourself and know your bike?
And you learn a skill that you use forever.
Yeah. I'm not making money out of it. I'm not. You know, I'm just showing you how to do it. Like, look, hey, look, just buy. This is what I got, and it worked for me. Can you do it? You know, that was my whole deal. You know.
Yeah, man.
And then some people are like, oh, you know, you're never gonna sync your carbs correctly. There's four carbs. I'm like, no, it's easy. It's this is what they did back in the 70s, back before they had iPhone, back before you were born. Right. This is how they do it before, and I'm showing you how they do it right now. You don't need computer or anything like that. So, yeah. It's just disconcerting where we're at right now with, you know, with motorcycles. You know, people think it's a rocket science, but it's not.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, totally.
Like. You know, as simple as, you know, how do you prevent your handlebar from welding? You just weld the fucking piece into it, and there you go.
Right, well, that's the thing. I feel like once you start working on your bike, you realize that like, oh, like this is just held here by like two little bolts.
Yeah,
right,
like, you look at
like squeezing it.
Yeah, you kind of look at it as it's as simple as it's all mechanical.
Definitely, man.
You know, it's not complicated.
For sure.
There are things though that I get it. You might not have the tools for it. You may want to go to the dealership to go for it. I get it, and I respect that. That's fine. But you can do it in your garage too, right? That's the whole philosophy, you know.
Yeah, man. But yeah, no. It's really a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah.
So what are like the next steps, like, you know, to work on this bike? Like, which one are you gonna finish first? You think?
I'm trying to finish this first. I think the Honda CB 750 is one of the most popular cafe racer bikes. So I'm trying to finish this, and then I've gotten a lot of engagement on this project. So I'm trying to finish it and show people that, hey, look, like based on what I did, like it works, it's good. So that's my next mission, is to finish this motorcycle. There's still a lot to do. What's
your vision for it, like in terms of like the tank, color, scheme, and all that stuff?
The color scheme, I probably want to go like a Nardo gray tank. Well, I was trying to polish it by hand, but it's really laborious. And then just go all black with vintage tires, but it's kind of up in the air. Yeah. And then that's the beauty of building a motorcycle. You have a blank canvas, and there's so many different ways you could turn this into.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I mean, you asked me that question. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. I kind of just go. I just build as I go. You know, it's kind of like when you're editing, right? You don't have an end vision. You kind of just see what you have. It's like, oh, he cussed right here. Oh, I gotta cut that out. And you kind of just work with what you have, and that's what with motorcycles. You know, you just build as you go. You come up with ideas here and there, and then it turns into something. And some people might like it, and a lot of people might not. You know, might like it. You know, that's how it is. You know, I think that's art. You know, you never know what you don't really have an end vision of what it is. I could probably 3D model this and do it in AutoCAD and see what the envision looks like. But I think the best way to go is to just do as you go.
Yeah, and you have those skills too, based on like your work that you do.
Yeah.
Now, but
I don't do it that way though. I kind of just
that you don't, because it's like it's cool though, because it's like you're approaching this a little differently, which is cool.
It's a mix of what do you have and what the challenges you're gonna have on a daily basis, and that's how you're gonna approach it.
Yeah, but like it's almost like the way I see it. What you're saying is like you're getting out of your head, you're getting out of your computer, and you're just doing it with your hands. You know, you're not thinking about like
I mean, everybody's life is all systematic, right? Everybody's living like a structured life and all that stuff. Your work, right? You wake up at 6 or 7 or 8, you go to work, and this is what you're gonna do every day. You're gonna submit this plan. You're gonna edit this. You're gonna do that. You know, why do you have to do that on something that you love? Why can't you freehand something, right? Yeah. And the beauty of freehand drawing is freehand drawing. The beauty of copying something is you're copying something. Yeah, it's just kind of self-conscious, kind of letting your self-conscious go on its own route. Yeah, it may not turn out as good, but you know, sometimes it's good to let your vision just go out of it. Yeah. You know, and that's how I build my motorcycle. I don't have a final outlook on how it's supposed to look like. Yeah. I kind of just see what works and what doesn't work, and then that's how it's gonna look like. This gold scheme thing, I don't know. Like I kind of just put it out there. I wasn't really sure how it's gonna look. I kind of don't like it right now because it doesn't match with anything. Yeah. But at the end of the day, once I have the tank, everything, maybe it might match. Yeah. No, for sure. You know, it's kind of just based on your own taste. You know.
Well, that's tight, man.
Got you. Let's do it. Yeah, you're in neutral. The button's right here. There you go. Yeah? Very neutral.
Yo, this thing is crazy.
It's throttly. You feel the throttle, right?
It's pretty good for an 800. Yeah. To be honest with you, bro. It's insane. It's so fun. No, I was just saying that like it's cool, like you sharing like your story of the immigrant story of, like from the Philippines, and like I just think that like resonates really well with people. And,
just building something out of nothing. Yeah. It's again, this whole Peterbilt thing was just, I didn't think it was going to be anything. I didn't know there was such a big community out of it. I felt like I was a little shy or embarrassed in the beginning because I didn't know how the community would react. You know, all the tutorials I would see, some of them are kind of controversial because there's a lot of mechanic head in the community. They'll tell, oh, that's the wrong thing to do it. That's not the right way. You're using the wrong tool. But I kind of advertise myself as the average Joe. You know, just like me and you, right? We have the same knowledge, where we came from the same background. We didn't go to school to be a mechanic, but hey, we both bought a bike, so that's one thing we have in common. Yeah. And that's what I was trying to tell. That's what the story that I'm kind of trying to tell is I want people to be more self-reliant. You know, again, we've talked about it several times. We live in a world where, you know, you can't be self-reliant anymore. You got to pay for everything you do. But I hate that, you know, fuck that. I don't want to live in the world where I always got to take it to a shop, or, you know, where you can't build something because the dealership said so. So that's one of the reasons why I like working on 80s bikes, is because they're all mechanical. They're easy to diagnose. Right? I'm not a software kind of guy. When something, you know, I own a Tesla. When something bad happens there, I'm fucked. You know, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But this is kind of just like a peaceful reminder of back in the days of how it used to be.
Hello, beautiful people. Thank you so much for listening to this first episode of the Moto Archive podcast. If you made it this far, bravo to you. I appreciate you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. It means a lot. And I would also appreciate it if you could follow Peter at Peterbuilt Moto on both. And yo, cut that. Actually, I messed up. Okay. So it's Peterbuilt Peterbuilt_Moto on both Instagram and TikTok. I know that he would really appreciate it as well. Also, you could find more about this podcast on Instagram at Moto Archives, or at Moto Archives. And if you could also just, share the content online too, I'd really appreciate it. I'm like constantly looking for more people to connect with, and, whether it be riding or, just talking bikes, maybe going and grab a drink, and talk bikes, or do another interview like one of these where I highlight somebody who's in the community that's building. So if you have any like leads, or if you know anybody personally that you would that you think would be good for the show, don't hesitate to send me a DM on Instagram. You could also find my personal Instagram at Nathaniel COPUCA, and I kind of just post a lot of my photography, video work there, and as well as motorcycle content too. So don't ever hesitate to reach out. I'm really grateful to have shared this with you, and I'm like really looking forward to the next podcast. I'm not really sure 100% what that is yet, or who it's going to be about, but just on the path to do more of these things. And so, this is the early stages. So thanks again, and peace and blessings.